We all know how important universities and colleges are, right? They're huge parts of our society. But have you ever actually stopped and thought, who's really in charge? Who's responsible for making sure the whole system actually works? Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today.
So let's start with a quick question for you. Before we dive into all the official stuff, who do you think is on the hook for a nation's universities? I mean, is it the schools themselves, the students paying tuition, maybe big-time donors? Well, the official answer might actually surprise you.
All right, let's put an official name to this. The concept is called public responsibility for higher education. And look, this is way more than just who pays the bills. It's a really broad set of duties. Think of it like a promise to make sure the entire system, and that includes both public and private institutions, is actually working for all of us.
Okay, so if this huge responsibility exists, that leads to a pretty obvious question, right? Whose job is it? Who are the key players actually tasked with all of this?
And the answer is surprisingly clear-cut. The main responsibility for the entire higher education system, it falls on one group: public authorities. So let's unpack what public authorities really means.
Now, public authorities isn't just one single office somewhere. It's actually layered. The main responsibility, the biggest chunk, is at the national level. But then you've got regional and local governments who have a role to play too. And you'll see that supranational level on there. That's a nod to the fact that, more and more, this conversation involves international agreements and standards.
Okay, so we've nailed down who is responsible, but what are they actually supposed to do? What does this responsibility look like in practice? Let's get into their core duties.
This quote right here, this is really the heart of it all. And I want you to focus on that one word, exclusive. That is huge. It means this isn't a responsibility they can just pass off to someone else. It is their job and their job alone to build the fundamental structures, the frameworks that let higher education do its thing. You could almost say they're the architects of the whole system.
And here they are. These are the 7 essential frameworks they have to build and maintain. Think of them as the pillars holding up the whole building. We're talking about everything from the basic legal rules and making sure the education is high quality to things like making sure your degree actually means something, figuring out how to recognize degrees from other countries, and yeah, of course, the big one, funding. This is basically the operating manual for the entire system.
But woven through all that technical stuff is something absolutely critical: a core social mission. Public authorities have a fundamental duty to make sure access is fair. To put it simply, it means your shot at getting into higher education should depend on how qualified you are, not where you come from or how much money your family has. It's about making sure the door is open for everyone.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds a little top-down, right? Like the government is just making all the rules. But it's actually way more nuanced than that. It's a real balancing act. And this really shows you that central tension. On one side, you've got the public authority's job: set up the frameworks, provide the funding, make sure standards are met. But at the exact same time, they have to protect the core values of the universities themselves, things like institutional autonomy and academic freedom. It's like they have to build the playground and set the basic safety rules, but they can't tell the kids exactly what games to play. So how on earth do they pull that off? How do you thread that needle? Well, the key is one word: consultation. These rules aren't just supposed to be dictated from the top. The idea is that public authorities work with universities, with professors, with students, with all the stakeholders to build the system together. It really is meant to be a partnership.
All right, so we've gone through the who, the what, and the how. But that brings us to the biggest question of all. Why? Why does any of this matter? What's the ultimate point of all this?
Well, when you boil it all down, this whole system is really trying to achieve 4 major things for society. Just 4 key goals.
And here they are. First, sure, it's about getting people ready for the job market. That's a big one, but it goes so much deeper. It's also about preparing people to be active citizens in a democracy. It's about personal growth. And this is a huge one. It's about growing and protecting our society's entire base of knowledge. So you see, this public responsibility isn't just bureaucracy. It's the foundation that lets higher education deliver all these incredible benefits to every single one of us.
Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We've spent this time talking about the public's responsibility for higher education. But what about the other side of that coin? What is the university's responsibility back to the public that supports it? Now that is a really interesting question. Thanks for tuning in.